In the 19th century, British engineers carved through the Indian subcontinent, laying a massive network of iron railway tracks across a harsh, sun-baked landscape. To build a stable foundation for these tracks, workers started digging up thousands of perfect, uniformly baked bricks from the surrounding dirt. They used them as cheap ballast, unaware they were looting the ruins of a 4,500-year-old metropolis. If we roll the clock back to 2500 BCE, we find a world driven by ego. While Egyptian pharaohs utilized massive amounts of slave labor to erect towering pyramids to themselves, the people living in the Indus Valley took a different path. They skipped the royal vanity projects, instead pouring their resources into the most advanced public infrastructure the ancient world had ever seen, designed for the everyday citizen. We are left with a society that thrived for centuries without grand palaces or a standing army, using a written language that remains silent to this day. Walk into an ancient Harappan city, and the first thing you notice is the layout. The streets are plotted on a precise 90-degree grid, creating a highly organized, chessboard-like structure across massive settlements. Their highest achievement in engineering is hidden beneath the surface. They constructed the world's first enclosed sewage and drainage system. Every single house featured a private drain feeding into these main street sewers. This level of sanitation reveals a society deeply invested in collective hygiene. They applied this mastery of water to large public structures, like the Great Bath in Mohenjo-Daro. To prevent leaks, they coated the bricks with a natural plant resin, creating a highly effective waterproof seal. Many modern cities today still struggle with severe flooding and clogged drains during monsoon season. Harappan engineers successfully solved that exact problem 4.5 millennia ago. When you examine this architectural blueprint, the priorities are clear. The Harappans valued public health and collective well-being over individual glory. On this map of the Indian subcontinent, dozens of city nodes grew. To scale these settlements, they relied on absolute standardization across a vast empire. From Gujarat to Punjab, every single brick shared the exact same mathematical ratio, guaranteeing structural integrity against heavy flooding. They applied this same exactness to their economy, developing a highly accurate system of stone weights. These weights operated on precise binary and decimal fractions, scaling up perfectly by multiples of 16. Because their measurements were perfectly consistent, foreign traders knew exactly what they were getting. This strict mathematical honesty made them the most trusted merchants in the ancient world. Standardized math and commercial trust provided the social glue for this empire, replacing the need for a central military force. Their influence quickly spread outward. Down the coast in Lothal, they engineered the world's first artificial tidal port, actively controlling the flow of ocean water to load and unload international merchant ships. We know their ships sailed far beyond the subcontinent because ancient Mesopotamian texts frequently reference a wealthy, resource-rich trading partner called Melucca, which historians now recognize as the Indus Valley. They left behind physical evidence of this vast network, primarily in the form of thousands of small stone seals. These feature intricate animal carvings and a distinct script that likely acted as identification tags for their exported goods. The absence of war-related artifacts suggests a different power structure than that of their neighbors. Depictions like the priest king point towards an elite class of administrators or merchants, rather than kings defined by conquest. Through these administrative tools, they built the ancient world's most expansive trade network, fueled by cultural exchange and economic stability. Fast forward to around 1900 BCE, and the pristine grid systems began to break down. The meticulously maintained drains clogged, and millions of people eventually abandoned the metropolis. For decades, the dominant historical theory was that these peaceful cities were wiped out by invading Aryan warriors from the north. However, modern DNA analysis of skeletons found at sites like Rakhigarhi has challenged that idea. The remains show no signs of battle wounds. Instead, they point to a population succumbing to severe disease and starvation. The true killer was rapid climate change. The regular monsoons began to fail, the Indus River shifted its course away from the major cities, and the massive Saraswati River completely dried up. This highly urbanized system was entirely dependent on abundant water. Once the rivers failed, the cities could no longer grow enough food, forcing a massive, desperate migration eastward into smaller rural farming villages. Harappan influence survived the fall of its cities. Their tools, grinding stones, and culinary habits remained in use, forming the bedrock of later traditions. Everything from the genetic makeup of the local population to the early practices of yoga, and even the exact designs of these terracotta children's toys, outlasted the collapse of the cities. The dry wells of Harappa offer a stark reality check. No matter how technologically advanced a civilization becomes, if it loses its balance with the natural environment, it will not survive.